Today we have Rob Cioffi from Forefront Packaging, and he's someone who he just bought this business a few years ago and has come in and realized that they're sitting on a ton of data, as I'm sure many people realize they are as well, and has used AI and some other initiatives, especially like letting it out to the rest of his team and seeing what people come up with to really, really great effect. And I can't wait for you to hear about his story. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Today we have Rob Cioffi, CEO of Forefront Packaging Solutions, and we were talking the other day about they've had a really interesting journey figuring out what they can do with technology in a business that I know you came into relatively recently, I think. And so, for people listening, I hope what we'll end up talking about today, and hopefully can come away with some ideas about is kind of what works in a production plant kind of setting, and what are some things that were tried and worked and didn't, all that kind of thing. But maybe for starters, Rob, maybe tell us a little bit about how you got to here, and then let's get into what Forefront is doing and working on.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. It's very exciting to be on your podcast, and I look forward to sharing a little bit about my background and what we're doing at Forefront today. Um, I started my career in metal distribution. I was on the finance and strategy side, and just really developed a passion for data and digging into information to try to figure out, how can we be more competitive? How can we unlock value? And over the 25 years I've been working, the tools and processes and things have developed quite a bit, and it's been really exciting. And so in this age that we're in now, with everyone's using AI and trying to do more advanced analytics, it's just been a lot of fun. So yeah, I started my career at Ryerson in metal distribution, and I spent about 10 plus years in management consulting. Got an MBA at Chicago Booth, and a partner of mine, Charlie Dross, and I had been looking for businesses that we thought we could scale, because growth's fun, and we love kind of investing in uh, people and good companies, and then just trying to take some of our know-how and see where we can add value.
Yeah.
And you know, I found Forefront with Charlie, and it was run by a woman named Laura Boucher, who built a really great company on some um, really solid customer relationships. And we said, hey, well, what else can we do with this? It looks like it's a really nice platform for growth. And the more that we dug into it, we figured out, hey, this is really a data company. This is a company that has a lot of information about customer behavior, vendor behavior, and just really being able to harness that data to try to better anticipate, what our customers need and how we can serve them better, and then adding, things that really make us sticky in terms of our design solutions. A gentleman named Mike Alianello came to us. He's got a couple patents in packaging, and said, "Here's what I think we could do to really, enhance the customer relationship, add more value." And it was really our, director of finance, Bob Breggy, who kind of coined what we really sell as convenience, and the way that we're able to do that is really through data. So that's kind of the background and how we got to where we are
That's
today.
really interesting. I wonder, maybe just for a second, because I know people in the audience are maybe include people who are looking to acquire businesses, and I'm just curious to take us inside your mind about, you're looking at a number of companies and this one stuck out. Did you see it right away as a data company, or what was the thing that said, okay, this is actually the one we're going to spend some time and effort on?
Well, they had some customer relationships that went back 10, 20 years. And they're, well-known logos that um, I was just like, well, this is really solid. I mean, this is a
Hmm.
foundation that we can build on. We had noticed that they hadn't added, a ton of customers in the recent past, and so we kind of prodded a little bit about why, and it was, well, this is a really nice stable business. They
Hmm.
weren't really rocking the boat, and fortunately or unfortunately, I'm the kind of guy that does like to rock the boat from time to time, and so as we started digging into it and started really getting our arms around the data, yeah, we learned that there is more that we can do here, and it's the lack of growth isn't because the business can't grow. It's been a really nice stable business, and the former owner was really comfortable.
Yeah.
But as we started to kind of do what we do, we were like, oh wait, let's what can this really be?
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say now that with Melanie Helfrich, who leads our um, sales and business development group, and James Bezzi, I mean, our salesman locally here in Chicago. I mean, they're adding one or two new logos a week, which
Hmm.
is super fun and exciting. And part of what we, share with these prospective customers is, how we approach the business, how we can, make things easier for them. And it really is all centered around data.
Yeah. Well, so maybe tell me about what's working on the sales front. So I think you said, in the past, this was a company that wasn't looking to add a lot of new logos, and all of a sudden here we are adding, I think you said, two a week. Was it a philosophic change? Was it a go-to-market change message? I know you said you had this great new idea that we're selling convenience. What was the thing you think that changed and worked the best for that sales group?
I honestly, that part was more of a process circumstance where
Okay.
historically the company was more aligned by customer instead of by function. And so, my perspective kind of coming in was, oh, to add a new customer, we need to add a new body to service that customer from
Mm.
beginning to end, right? All the way from data analysis to sourcing to design to, kind of warehousing and shipping a product out, where now we have somebody who's in charge of inventory management, somebody who's in charge of
Right.
demand planning, somebody who's in charge of design. And that has really positioned us to better scale. So it was
That's
just a
fantastic. Yeah.
small shift. And that's,
Okay.
from the management consulting background, that's, where we start.
Okay. Let me ask this. So when you guys looked at the data that you had available to you, because I know when you go into a company, a lot of times there are a couple things that happen with data that are pretty common, and the first one, biggest one, is that a lot of the data you want is missing. The second one is that some of the data is inaccurate, or sometimes, like, if a company's been around long enough, the way we used to do addresses was this way. Now 5 years ago we changed it this other way, and now recently we changed this other way. So how did you make choices about where to focus? Like, what was the most valuable sort of category of data, and how did you make sure it was usable for yourself?
Sure. And you bring up a really good point about, how things can sometimes maybe get a little bit out of sync. And COVID really shook things up,
Hmm.
in the supply chain for everybody, as far as, I've experienced. And so there were things where, they had to move to different vendors or they had to be warehoused
Yeah.
differently. And, that impacted how you bought and that impacted pricing. And so there were a lot of things that were maybe disaggregated that we had to kind of bring back and look at and say, just um, low level kind of regression analysis, say kind of looking at all the attributes of our products that we're selling and the quantities that they're being, bought and sold in. Are there things that we can do to say, oh, this kind of got a little disjointed. Let's bring it back to, what you would expect to pay for this product or how you would expect to buy this product. And so we just kind of started with some real basic analysis on, what are we buying? Who are we buying it from? What quantities are we buying it in? And then what are the attributes of that product that may or may not influence the price and the cost. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is give our customers the best product we can at a very attractive price. And we're not a commodity player. We're kind of a specialty house, and so um, you know there's a lot of highly customized packaging that we sell, and just being able to kind of dig in and find the nuance in the various products to make sure that what we are selling makes sense at at a given price. Um, and so again, it's just started with some real basic regression analysis and um, building some demand planning models, but we weren't even close to using any of the AI a couple of years ago that we are now to really look at how can we get smarter on this data.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think you said when you started that one of the things you identified was that this was a company that knew a lot about customer behavior. So maybe talk about what was something you had an inkling about that maybe we transitioned into how you're using AI. What was something about customer behavior you thought might be a gold mine, and then kind of digging around, you actually found something really interesting.
Right. So, I mean, we have information on our customers, like I said, some of them going back 10, 20 years. And so you just start to see like, uh, where does a customer kind of find themselves with, let's say there's a LTO item that they're manufacturing a product that's going to go into Costco or Walmart or Kroger, whoever. And some of them are just, you realize they're kind of rinse and repeat. It's the same product, same time of year, or it's the same thing consistently every week or every month. But then there's certain things where it's, oh no, like they order a ton of this and they only order it once or twice a year, and it's always a fire drill, right? Because you can
Mm,
start to look at, you know, what are our typical lead times, and then where have we had to rush things, airship them, et cetera. And so by starting to look at some of that data, and starting to use some AI and some of our large data models, we can start to see some of those patterns. And then communication is key. So we just kind of sit down with our customer and say, hey, how do we get ahead of some of these things? How can we help you better prepare? And normally it's not they're waiting for the last minute just because you know they got other things to do. It's because they're waiting on their customer, and there's
mm,
some artwork, there's some new nutritional ingredient, there's something. Packaging is generally the last thing that people think about. Most people are concerned about making a really great product, and then it's like, oh wait, what are we going to put it in? Or
yeah.
um, or in some cases, like we've had a circumstance where a customer produces something in one of their facilities that may be nut free, and they move it to one that you know has nuts or sesame seeds or something, and you need to say, may contain sesame. So, anyways, we use the data to try to see these patterns,
Mm,
and then that allows us to kind of ask the right probing questions, so that we're not having fire drills, and our customers aren't stressed out about are they going to be
right.
able to get the packaging that they need to meet their customers' needs.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I see this in a lot of different customers where if they're part of a chain of events that's happening, um, a lot of times the upstream people are thinking to themselves, "Well, I don't want to bother Rob yet because we're not ready to put this thing into production yet." But in fact, like I think you said, communication is key. That's so true. That a lot of times if this the team of partners working on this product can get together, you can sort of spot efficiencies and you can get ahead of things, and you can be waiting for it when it comes in, and you can be surprised when it comes in. And I think we all can imagine that they'll waiting for it and being prepared for it is going to go a lot better. You'll make fewer mistakes, fewer reprints, all that kind of stuff. Does that ring true for you in terms of like getting that line of communication open?
Totally. And it's funny because I mean now, to kind of bring it back to AI again, we're starting to have those conversations with the GPTs that we're building, where we start to, share a lot of this information with a GPT. If you're, we use different AI tools, but the one, that kind of everyone's using is ChatGPT. And so as you're building your GPTs and you start to feed it some of that information, you can start to ask it, hey, is there anything I'm missing that I need to be sharing with my customer this week? And by analyzing the data and you know prior activity, it will
Yeah.
suggest things to us. Or even like live in meetings, we'll just kind of say like, oh hey, do we need to discuss this? Or where has this come up before? And
Yeah.
super helpful.
So it makes sense. So seeing you guys are experimenting with a lot of different scenarios in GPT and using a lot of really good data. Something we've talked about here on other interviews has been, there's a sort of a line where, at least from an LLM point of view, there's maybe a limit of effectiveness after which it becomes sort of a little fuzzier, less effective. I don't trust these results as much. For you, what have been the stories where this is a complete win, we're crushing this, and where have you gotten a little fuzzier where you have to do some double check?
So yeah, we're you want information at your fingertips, and we're building GPTs so that when we're live with people, we can be super responsive, and it makes us look like geniuses when really we're
Yeah.
just leveraging an awesome tool. That's been super successful for us. Where some of the more challenging things are where we get some of these AI tools, ChatGPT, Julius AI is one that's more analytical that we've been playing around with. You know, they can start to hallucinate sometimes. They'll go back to an older version of, a model that we had worked on, hours ago or days ago.
Mm.
And you're like, why did you just revert back to that? We did, you know, we made a lot of progress since then. And so I think there's still a lot of room to grow with some of these tools.
Mm.
What we're using today, I'm not sure is what we'll be using next year.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just so new. And fortunately, we've got a team who they roll up their sleeves. They're all problem solvers. They're excited and kind of embracing all these new tools. They're like, I thought I was, uh, ahead of the pack until, we turned some of our team members loose. And now, I feel like I'm behind because they're just embracing it in miles ahead of me. And
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep pace. But, where, where we can, we're trying to leverage these tools just so we can better scale, better serve our customers.
Mhm.
And I think the key is really just kind of learning every day. It's we're not kind of sitting back and saying, "Oh, this is what it can do." Um, it's implemented great. It's no, what else can it do?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm working on a weekly newsletter that's going to be here's everything that changed in the last 7 days. Because I mean, it seems like every Monday we come in and there's like 10 new things to talk about. And what I think a lot about is because we built software for a long time here, and when you're having one-off conversations with GPT, that's one thing. But then when you need to scale it within an organization, even past two or three people, you get into situations around governance and security and some other things. And I'm curious, when you guys look at how you kind of there's an excitement of that rollout, and as you say, people start to run with it. What have you guys done to make sure at least there's some guidelines and fences around how far we take this, how much we trust it, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, it's the trust but verify, because these tools you do understand hallucinate, and I think where people get tripped up is they think, oh, hey, I'm gonna, put a prompt in and whatever it spits out, like, hey, I'm good. Like, it's not,
Mm-hmm.
um, kind of the end all be all. I think if you view it as a tool and it can help you kind of get to um,
Yeah.
a potential outcome sooner, use it that way, but don't you have to verify.
Yeah.
One area where it has been super valuable to me personally is, we're evaluating, different M&A transactions, and actually, hopefully, we're closing one this morning. Um, and being able to kind of have it consume, our legal information and kind of setting up our contract GPT and asking it like, hey, are there things that are um, not, not in line with some of our other documents or that could be in conflict? I mean, either the amount of attorney fees or the time that it would take me to kind of comb through all that and just make sure I'm not missing anything. It's super helpful. And then once I do that, I don't just kind of accept it as is. I then send kind of the package to my attorney and say, hey, just double check me and make sure I didn't miss anything. So instead of accruing, you know, tens or hundreds of hours with our attorneys, we're getting it down to, a handful. And it's again, share the information, consume what it spits back, but then you got to verify it and you got to, put it
Yeah.
in the hands of experts to kind of sign off before, it's ready for prime time.
Yeah. I'm curious when you guys look at how you might use things like this to improve or change or deepen the customer experience as you're adding these new logos. What have you guys come up with in terms of how to make that, you know, whether it's a personalized or more turnkey kind of situation? What have you done or thought about for customers, or what's in your pipeline?
Right. So I'd be I wouldn't be honest if I said I knew everything that our design team was doing, but they're using a number of different tools, um, AI with respect to design, that taking, customers brand guidelines, taking, understanding some of our customers preferences given, the period of time that we've worked together, and just using all that to basically make suggestions to tools on, how we may want to show some things. The art guys have a part of the brain that I just don't have. I mean, they're amazing. Everybody thinks their art people are the best, and I know ours are. So I'll argue with anybody to the end on that one. So the stuff that they're doing is just mind blowing to me, and I can't even tell you how they're necessarily doing it. But I know the base of it is they're kind of taking all this information that, you'd sit down in a meeting and maybe somebody's sketching something out on a piece of paper, trying to produce a PDF. Well, they're making, you know, 3D mock-ups, like virtual
Yeah.
mock-ups. And then they're also taking those and they're going back into our mock-up studio, taking the customer's product, putting it into that um, software, actually producing mock-ups, putting the product in, and then sharing it with the customer. And that has been a total game changer for us. I mean,
Mhm.
some of our customers don't make a move without, our guys running through that process with them. And it is infinitely quicker with the use of, the AI mock-up tools.
Yeah.
It's
For
incredible.
you, have you done any sort of real or back of the napkin calculation on, now that we've invested some time and energy into this, what has it actually brought to the business, whether in tangible or in intangible numbers? What have you come up with so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably saved us a ton of money in attorney fees and consulting fees. Our systems administrator, who basically manages all of our Salesforce ecosystem, our demand planning, our accounting, he the other day kind of made a claim that he did something in, I'd say, a week or two that he doesn't think he could have done in 2 years.
Right.
Um, and I mean, we're trying to build those, API connections with our systems so that we can actually use AI to tell us, how efficient are our processes? How efficient is the team using the system, right? Are
Mhm.
we doing workarounds where, there's an easier way to do something? Are we manually manipulating something where there's an automation opportunity? So yeah, I mean, I don't have I can't tell you it saved us like
Yeah.
X number of dollars, but it's really just helping us scale where, maybe we would have had to hire a couple more people in certain instances.
Hmm.
We're taking advantage of, these tools to save us time. And, that equates to dollars.
Yeah, it's interesting because I read there's a new MIT study that came out I think late last week that says something like 90% of AI projects are failing, and I'm not seeing that. And when I read what they were looking at, I think a lot of the times it comes down to um, people not being terribly strategic about what they pick to work on. And what I like about what you just came up with, even if it's just categories, your legal fees and your design fees and things like this, and your speed to doing something, that you could spend some time and come up with a number, but I think it sounds like the number is a positive number, not a negative number. And so for me, a lot of it is just the strategy around picking what you want to work on. I think a lot of companies make a mistake of picking something that's like sort of a convenience, or like, someone spending 2 hours on something and we made it 1 hour is kind of a who cares. But your story about something that was 2 years to whatever it was, 2 days or something. I like to think about some of the promise of this of technology and software, and especially AI, is something where there might be something you thought you could never do or would take 2 years, which is essentially never in business timeframes. And now you actually have a chance to do it in some kind of affordable way, because 2 years would never have worked out in a positive ROI. But now we're talking about something interesting. So, in a way, like getting people out there to dream, get a lot of ideas, but have a strategy about making sure that this is going to be a positive outcome. That's where I think people are kind of coming up short. Any take on why you think maybe 90% are failing according to MIT?
No, but 90% seems high.
Yeah,
I guess if people don't really understand that, it's a tool and, what it should be used for, it's not, to me, it doesn't replace people, right? It just
yeah,
helps people kind of get to certain answers quicker. But I guess one anecdote that I could add is that we were trying to build something that I think was fairly complex. And we tried it a couple different ways, and, the tool was hallucinating. And we basically said, let's stop wasting time on this. Either the tool's not there yet, or
yeah,
um, we're not there yet, but something we were trying just wasn't working. And
yeah,
we just kind of had to say, nope, we're going to have to do it another way.
yeah. That's honestly, that's a great strategy, because I think a lot of people might bang their heads on something for a long, long time, and to your point, it might be the case that this kind of model isn't ready yet, or it would take 2 years to build. And I think the move on. I mean, it's such a cliche idea, but that's sort of a fail fast idea where this isn't working. We have 100 ideas. Let's go on to the next one. We'll find something somewhere else. That's a really great way to go about that. I'm curious. You talked about the legal and the design innovations. I've talked to a lot of CEOs in the last 90 days who are doing things like kind of like you are, which is, all right, everyone, I want to see one idea a week. I haven't talked to someone who said three. I want 3 ideas a week from everybody. Any other sort of surprising innovations that now you let this loose with the team that they came up with?
I mean, like our HR, our sales, it basically helped us build, an integration plan. It helped us build out, um, the company has done trade shows in the past, but maybe not at the level that we're trying to do them now. And so we got a big one, IBIE, coming up in Vegas in September. And that was a massive effort to coordinate, first of all, like all the backdrops and things like you see behind me, all the kind of marketing things and things that, we'd kind of pass out as Vegas after all. So we're doing some dice, but the swag and everything else. And it's a lot, right? And just kind of keeping that all on track, and when things need to be done, um, we're like, hey, let's just create a GPT for that. And
Yeah.
um, that's kind of our go-to to start all the time. Is like, hey, what did ChatGPT say? Okay, cool. Do we think that works? Do we think it doesn't work? let's, what do we do next?
Yeah, that's really great.
Um, so it's just kind of become part of our DNA, I would say, is like that's
Mm.
always the first place we just kind of check. Um, because two heads is always better than one. Well, usually better than one.
Yeah,
And so that's just another place to kind of bounce ideas off of, and um, it's been successful for us. Again, I think
yeah,
it's just really part of our DNA at this point.
that's a great way to think about it. So maybe final thought on now that you've been through some experiments and had some successes, anything you'd recommend to people as a thing you might have done differently when you started that maybe people can take with and run?
I don't know. I do think there's a lot of kind of trial and error. I think it's all about the prompts. I think it's about trusting and verifying. But the one anecdote that I would add that I think is super fun, and I don't think that everyone necessarily thinks about other ways that they can use AI in their daily life that kind of make it really fun and exciting. I mean,
Mm.
I've done, and if you don't mind, I'd like to just kind of share a couple things that personally have been fun kind of outside of business. And it's I've got a 9-year old, and we have this kind of ongoing story that we write with ChatGPT about his 2 stuffed animal capybaras that go crazy when we leave the house and get into all kind of mischief. And you know it all started from like, hey, let's get some reading time in. He's 9 years old, whatever. And then we were like, why, we can read, but let's write. Let's kind of be creative, and we kind of tweak it, and we add his friends in and all those things. So that's kind of fun. I dumped all my tax information in to see if my tax guy's doing a good job. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is think about AI broadly. Don't be afraid to kind of say like, hey, how could it, apply in this circumstance? I had, a weird water meter sticking out of my front yard, and I took a picture of it and said, hey, what can I do with this? Or, how do I change the battery in my car? So there's a lot of, applications outside of just business that, really help you start to understand some of the capabilities better. I mean, if you're just banging on it from 9 to 5 every day, yeah, you're going to make some progress. But if you start to really incorporate it, like I said, kind of have it become part of your DNA, um, and you've got everyone around you doing that, I mean,
Yeah.
2 plus 2 becomes 5 real quick.
Yeah, it's funny that AI sort of AI first thinking is what I would call that. So it's you even said it before. We start there. It's like, hey, let's check to see if this is something we can use. I know a lot of the news lately has been AI is going to replace all kinds of jobs. I think it's going to be more like AI is going to make each individual job a little bit more efficient. And so having someone be have an assistant that can answer those questions, and they're the ones being the governor and kind of judging what it comes up with is really effective. Well, Rob, this has been super great. Thanks for all the insight and sharing your experiences and kind of how Forefront is using things. For if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to find you online? Is it LinkedIn, or what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's great. We've actually been using ChatGPT as well as our 2020 marketing team to put a lot of stuff out there and kind of highlight what we're doing
Mm,
here at Forefront. Actually, I don't. You kind of bring up a good point. I don't think we've done a good enough job of kind of putting out there, how AI has helped our customers and helped us. So maybe that'll have to be kind of a future post. But yeah, a lot of what we do
yeah,
goes through LinkedIn, and that's a pretty easy way to get a hold of me.
that's great. Well, Rob, a pleasure. Thanks for having some time with me this morning, and maybe we'll have you on again next year to see what you guys accomplished.
Thank you very much for having me. This has been great.
All right, thanks, Rob. Thanks for listening to the Digital Transformist. This is Mike LaVista. And if you like that content, subscribe so you can get notified of new content when it comes out.